I don't think this next conversation will be as polite. You said something fascinating on yesterday's show that Nikola Jokic's stretch here, and I'm going to call it a 5 year stretch, nice round number, is the second highest peak, call second highest peak in NBA history. And I'm assuming, and nod your head, Michael Jordan's got the highest peak, in your opinion. And so I'm going to throw out, I'm not going to bring Bill Russell into it. He's playing in a compact 9, 10, 11 team NBA. Throw that out. Not going to do it. So now, we'll throw out the 70s as well. And we'll talk about the era that started with Magic and Bird and included Jordan and then has been extended to LeBron. And now we're moving basically into the post LeBron era. And so I here Larry Bird, LeBron James, and Nikola Jokic are who we're talking about. And I hate to not include Magic in this stretch, but he just doesn't rate. These are the three guys. And so let's look at their accomplishments during these are 5 year stretches. Bird from 82 to 86, LeBron from 2009 to 2013, Jokic from 21 to 25. Two NBA titles for Bird and LeBron, two finals MVPs for Bird and LeBron, three season MVPs for Bird, four for LeBron. Then Jokic on that has one title, one finals MVP, three season MVPs. And then when we go to just stats, and I believe these are 5 year averages, I think, but Larry Bird, 5 times first team All NBA, averaged 25 points, 10 and a half rebounds, 6.3 assists. LeBron James, 5 first team All NBAs, 28.3 points, basically 9 rebounds, 6.3 assists. Nikola Jokic, 4 first team All NBAs, basically 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists. I'm sorry. Stats are incredible. Obviously, we would have to agree Jokic is playing in an era where it's much easier to acquire stats, elevated stats. Anyway, I think without me adding much, just listing the accomplishments, it's hard to say Nikola Jokic's peak is better than Larry Bird's or LeBron James.
Yeah, I think the way I look at it, Jason, is Nikola Jokic, the gap, which I said yesterday, the gap between him and the next best player right now is more pronounced. It's more extreme than at any time in NBA history outside of, you can arguably say Jordan. I would put Jordan above. I would say Jordan being the best player in the NBA for the 90s, the next best player was drastically far off of Jordan. Other than where we're at right now, though, with Nikola Jokic, that's it. Like, just Jordan. Nikola Jokic is so substantially better than the next best player that that kind of distance from the best player to the next best player in the league at the time has never been wider other than Jordan. I take some offense in the fact that we're strapping in like MVP, finals MVPs, championships. No one values winning more than me, Jason. No one makes the conversation and builds the conversation around value and impact in winning games more than I do. But it's not a fair conversation to have with Nikola Jokic. It really is a nuanced discussion. When you look at Nikola Jokic and the supporting cast this guy has been burdened to have throughout his now 11 seasons in the league, it's unparalleled. What do I mean by that? I went back and I looked at every NBA MVP winner. So every guy that's won a regular season MVP since 1980. I checked their supporting casts in their first 10 years that they've been in the NBA. Larry Bird had played with the second most players at that point, his first decade in the league, that were either an all-star or made an all-NBA or all-NBA defensive designation. Second most ever, only behind Magic. Magic played with 32 such selected players. Bird had 29. When you look at Michael Jordan, he's on the low end of the scale. He played with only 9 guys, or 9 times he played with a guy that was an all-star, all-NBA, or all-NBA defense. Nikola Jokić is the only guy since 1980 to win a league MVP that has 0 such teammates. He has never played once with a single all-star, a single all-NBA player, a single all-NBA defensive player, never one time. Not only is he the only guy to win an MVP since 1980 to have 0, but he's the only player in NBA history to play his first 10 years without one guy that has made one of those designations. He simply doesn't have the help. And unlike LeBron, the coward mercenary that he was, when he crawled on his hands and knees to Dwayne Wade's team and built this super team with a top 5 league-wide player in Wade, and they recruit a top 15 league-wide player in Chris Bosh, Jokić has just stayed put, kept his mouth shut, and kept playing at this ridiculously unmatched level. And he somehow, some way has managed 1 title. Give Nikola Jokić. Larry Bird played with 2 top 50 players all time to win 3 championships. Magic Johnson played with 2 top 50 players all time to win his championships. Michael Jordan had a top 50 player in Scottie Pippen to win all 6 of his rings. I'm not even asking for a top 50 player for Nikola Jokić. I'm saying, can he get 1 single all-star? And let's see what this guy can do. I think if you gave Nikola Jokić the supporting cast that LeBron James has had in LeBron James's streak, which you've pointed out, Jokić would have won far more than LeBron James. And you can look, the impact of winning, the impact he makes on winning is glaring when you look at his advanced metrics. But I take exception with, we just have to count these finals wins and MVPs. Jason, your guy Chuck, there was a conversation about Jokić versus Shaq, which went viral on Inside the NBA when Shaq and Charles Barkley were arguing, and Barkley basically said Jokić would kill you head to head. And Shaq and him started arguing, and then it went viral, and people were saying, well, Jokić needs more than 1 ring if you're going to move him past Shaq, who has 4. In a 10-year span, Jason, to win the 4 rings that Shaq won, he had Kobe Bryant for 8 years and then Dwayne Wade for 2 years. Like Kobe Bryant, the 2nd greatest shooting guard ever, and Dwayne Wade, the 5th greatest shooting guard ever, for Shaq to win 4. Give Nikola Jokić a replacement level player on Kobe Bryant's level or Dwayne Wade for 10 years. And I guarantee you this guy would have more than 4 rings. Guaranteed.
In arguing your case, you always seem to make statements that trigger me, that have nothing to do with the argument that you're making. You called Dwayne Wade the 5th best shooting guard in NBA history. And who's 3 and 4?
Well, it depends on like where we're. Positional designation is a unique factor that we have to. Like, is Jerry West? Do you view him as a 1 or 2?
2.
Okay, so do I. So I have my top 3 2s are, of course, Jordan at 1, Kobe at 2, and then Jerry West at 3.
Yeah, so who's 4?
I think Dwayne Wade is right there in any tier that follows
5,
those 3.
though. You said 5.
What's that?
I'm saying who's number 4? You said 5. You called him 5th.
That's what I'm. And you're taking exception with me saying D Wade is 5. I'm saying he could be as high as 4, but he's somewhere in that.
No. My exception is I think Dwayne Wade should be higher. I'm asking you who's number 4.
No, I'm good putting D Wade at 4.
But you said 5, right, Scap. Don't be a coward. You said 5. Live up to your word. I'm asking you a direct question. Who's number 4?
I would say Wade. I would say a top 5. So Wade's top 5. Okay, I'll say he's 4th.
Could we rewind the tape? He called the man 5th, and now he's calling him 4th. You could have just said 4th, and I would have never been triggered.
See, I thought you were triggered in the opposite direction. I thought you were saying I was going too high with Dwayne Wade's placement.
No. Hey, look, if someone said Dwayne Wade was 3rd, I wouldn't be offended. I'd say, well, but I would probably lean towards Jerry West like you. But, let me ask you a different question since you refuse to answer the who's number 4 question in a proper way. Who's number 5?
Number five is in terms of the two.
No. Yeah, two guards. Yes. Who's number 5?
Jay, I'm going to be honest with you, Jason. I think it's a pretty extreme drop off after those top guys, and again, it depends somewhat on positional designation and so forth. But
Let me ask you. So let me slow this down for because I got to get back to Jokic. But even now, you're really triggering me. You know, Luke thinks that you should be the host of this show. You're Scap's the best thing that's ever been on this show. We need more Scap. He says this to me all the time.
Shout
Luke,
out to you, Luke.
and when I tell you that Scap is trash, this would be Exhibit A. This is what I'm talking about. Would you have to agree? He called Dwayne Wade 5th, even though he doesn't know who number 4 is. He refused to say who's 5th. Now, this is the inconsistencies of Scap, and this is why I think you have him overrated as the best thing that happens on this show, Luke. Do you now see what I'm talking about? Yeah, all right, thank you. Now, let me go back to Nikola Jokić.
I think there's a big drop off, and I'll get you back on track with Jokić here. I think there's a big drop off if we're talking best twos, and it's a nuanced conversation too, because like I said, some people have Jerry West at 1. I have him as a 2. What I'm saying here, Jason, give Nikola Jokić one of the 4 greatest shooting guards of all time for a decade straight and see what happens. The guy closest to that billing right now in this modern NBA is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Put SGA with Nikola Jokić for a decade, and he's going to have more than 1 ring. That's my point of why we can't.
You've made a sound point, and you've if you hadn't dirtied it up with the Dwayne Wade comment, I'd be right there with Luke. But now let me push back on your argument because I agree with you. You've made some nuanced points that are like, hey, he hasn't had enough support. I knew you were going to go there, and I think it's a legitimate argument. My deal here, as it relates, and so I'm going to eliminate LeBron James from this conversation, and I really think when we talk about peaks, and you can still have LeBron ranked higher than Nikola Jokić if you want to. And I'm talking to the audience out there, but in terms of peaks, I think where I would really push back is with Larry Bird. And I know he had Kevin McHale. I know he had Robert Parrish. I know he had Dennis Johnson. I know he had Danny. I know he had a lot of good
Bill
players.
Walton 1 year. It was 6th man of the year.
Yeah, Bill Walton. Yeah, I get it. The degree of difficulty in the Bird era, during the Magic Bird era, during the Magic Michael Bird, Isaiah Thomas era, the point that you're saying, this gap between Nikola Jokić and everybody else, I think is actually an argument against Nikola Jokić. I think that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and Michael, they faced, and particularly Michael early in his career, they faced more resistance, more players who could meet their level of competitive fire and want to and desire to be great than what Nikola Jokić is facing. And he's playing in an era where a lot of guys don't care. A lot of guys are drowning in money and fame and Instagram models and weed and just a culture that doesn't value competition. And so I just watched a video where Lawrence Taylor was talking about why he'll never move off Joe Montana as a better quarterback than Tom Brady. And he's not slighting Tom Brady. He's just like, hey man, when Joe Montana was out there, it was the Crips and the Bloods. And we really went at each other and Tom just didn't face that level of resistance. That would be my argument for Larry Bird. He faced more high-end, super competitive resistance than Nikola Jokić in a league that doesn't allow real physicality, a league that launches three-pointers, a league that night in, night out, guys are looking for a reason to load manage more than they are to go out there and pound each other and, be in a real competition. That would be my pushback.
Yeah, and Jason, look, there's no bigger critic of this era than me. In fact, I when I started watching Nikola Jokić like 4 or 5 years ago, really watching him from a nightly basis, I was watching him as a way to make fun of this era or be critical of this era, because my shtick, pretty much, my belief is that this era stinks, and it's highlighted by all of the factors and things that you just brought up there. So I actually was watching this slow, unathletic, overweight-looking white guy that's destroying this league. And I was using it as a way to make fun of it. Like, this is the guy that is destroying this era that you want me to believe is the greatest era of all time. But a funny thing happened, though, as I was watching him and watching the games night in and night out, and I just really came to appreciate this guy's level of unparalleled dominance. Jason, he averaged the cleanest triple-double ever last year. 30 points per game, 13 rebounds, 10 assists. He became the first player in league history, think about that, to finish top 3 in points, rebounds, and assists for a single season. No one had ever finished top 10 in all 3 of those things before. He finished top 3, and he was 3rd league-wide in steals. To suggest that he could be better this year would be absolute lunacy. I would have slapped you in the face had you suggested that coming into this year. He's much better this season than he was last season. When I look at these advanced analytic things, which again, no one makes fun of those more than me, at least over the history of my lifetime, these acronyms that no one knows what the hell they are or what they mean, PER, BPM, VORP. Like, when you really look at them, though, Michael Jordan was the undisputed king of those advanced metrics. Despite the fact they were created, in my estimation, to talk LeBron up, Michael Jordan has been the career leader in PER, BPM, win share per 48, like, for his entire career since he stepped foot. LeBron James has never been able to eclipse Jordan in any of those things. Nikola Jokić right now is the career leader by a large margin over Michael Jordan for the top spot ever in BPM, PER, and win share per 48. Like, the BPM in particular is nuts, Jason. It's outrageous. Google right now, just do a little cursory search while I'm talking and look at single season BPM leaders NBA history. Nikola Jokić has 6 of the top 9, 5 of the top 6. Like, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander right now is in the midst of a historic season. He's sitting at 13 box plus minus. It would be higher if he holds it at 13. It would be higher than every season Jordan ever had, higher than all but one season LeBron James ever had. That's how good Shai is right now. It's 7th all time. Nikola Jokić has 5 better than Shai's season this year, including this year where he's sitting at 19. Think about what I'm saying. Shai is 7th all time right now at 13 this season. Jokić is at 19. That's how much better he is than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It is a substantial void. Even in Jordan's peak, I don't know that he was quite this much better than every other player in the NBA. And it's just a shame that he doesn't have the requisite supporting cast, because now it has to become this nuanced conversation, because he's not going to have the win totals and the championships that you want to see to have a guy in this conversation. But it's because he refuses to prostitute himself out like LeBron James and Kevin Durant to steal cheap rings. He just stays in the small market, which has been by and large poorly run, and he still is winning.
Scap, that's a hell of an argument you just put together. You've done a great job. I know if I'm not joking with you, means I don't like you. That's why I'm cracking jokes with you. You do an excellent job. You did an excellent job. You're giving us much to think about. Is Nikola Jokić the 2nd greatest player in NBA history? That's the conversation you're arguing, and there may be some merit to it. That's pretty fascinating. I'm glad that we got to have this debate and discussion on this show. Don't miss a second of Fearless. Hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with our latest content.